Hey everyone. So today I wanted to start sharing some little tidbits of a project that I've been working on for the past month or so. And that is to try to combine my two favorite things, legacy games with Cthulhu Wars. Okay, so this video I'm just going through the design principles that I'm applying to my implementation of legacy for Cthulhu Wars. So first of all, I'm leaving the rules effectively intact, at least to start. In a lot of legacy games, you kind of start with this vanilla set of rules, and as you play, you unlock really the core rules. And so that makes it easy for people to kind of get into the game, and it's super cool, like almost like a computer game learning mode, but we don't have that. Cthulhu Wars is already known. Most people who own it probably already know how to play it, or they've, attempted to play it. So this is for people who already have Cthulhu Wars and already probably know how to play. But of course, they can introduce new players into the beginning of this legacy campaign, just like any other game. Okay. Second, I had to decide who are the players. Are they the faction? What kind of this, like when they make a decision, are they making a decision that Cthulhu would make? And that affects how I write the stories and what the script is like. So this is what I decided. I decided that I don't think most of these beings know or care about the earth. They don't even care about the war. This is the presumption that I'm making. They care, but only in the sense that these immensely powerful beings are kind of like big toddlers. They're not really necessarily aware that the other beings exist, because their perspective on reality is so immense, but also so narrow that they just don't care. But just like a lion is not going to tolerate another predator, regardless of what it is, entering its territory, Cthulhu is totally gonna just smash against Hastur if they're near. But otherwise, they don't really need to directly fight each other. So why the war? Why are these things happening? Why is the earth being destroyed? And I really decided that in my legacy campaign, it all comes down to the cultists. And so the players in the legacy Cthulhu Wars are taking on the role of the cult leader. So all of my story cards that you flip over, in case you don't know how legacy campaign or game generally works, generally you flip over a card, maybe a couple cards, and it has a story. And those stories ultimately lead to, hey, if this happens, turn over card 52, and if this thing happens, turn over card 13. So the way it's written was going to be really difficult to write about the perspective of Hastur, who I feel like is not a very sentient being, or versus Nyarlathotep, who effectively seems to be like Satan. At least that's how Stephen King writes about Nyarlathotep, in the guise of Randall Flagg, which is it takes on many forms. So Nyarlathotep has schemes, but does his schemes really involve destroying the earth? Maybe, maybe not. I'm just saying that in the legacy campaign, there's going to be a high priest, and you're going to be assuming the role of that high priest, and throughout the campaign you'll be playing the same faction until start to finish. And personally I like legacy campaigns that last between 10 and 13 games. That's what I like, so that's what I'm designing. And I think that just kind of like a Netflix series, going with 13 episodes instead of like 26 episodes, you end up telling a really tight, meaningful story, and you don't have a lot of filler. You basically don't have room for filler. So that's what I'm trying to do here. And the story is coming out pretty interesting. So the thing about a lot of legacy games is they tell a story in an ongoing universe, but here the earth gets destroyed at the end. And is that what the high priest wanted? Presumably, the high priest thought he would live at the end. They're going to remake the earth in the image that he wants, right? This is kind of like a Doctor Strange story where they hope that by being associated with this immense being and catching that immense being's attention, that when they win by their machinations, the end result will be positive for them in some way, even if it's really bad for everybody else. So that's the mindset I'm assuming. But in order to, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, but I don't think it's too much, because it's like, I introduced this concept in the very first card. So in my legacy campaign, the concept is that when the high priest destroys, he wins, and the last seal is broken, and these beings are suddenly rampaging across the earth, and the earth effectively is no more. The end result is going to be the high priests seeing, like, basically reality just kind of like starts to blur out, almost like an overexposed photograph. And as it blurs out, the consciousness of the high priest wakes up again, almost in like a Groundhog Day kind of scenario. But reality is shifted. Now, whether it's a parallel dimension and he's just taken over the mind of another body, maybe he rebuilt reality and reality kind of snapped back, but it didn't quite snap back the same way. And so each game, well, most of the games are going to involve destroying the earth, but rebuilding reality slightly different, in a way that is more favorable to the winner, hopefully. But the combined psyches of the other high priests are going to be voting to expend their mental power to also shift reality towards ways that will maybe give them an advantage the second or third or fourth time, right? So that's the core conceit that I'm basing the whole legacy off of. I think it's going to be pretty cool. Some concepts I'm introducing is there's going to be, do I want to share it? Okay, so I'll share one thing that I am very happy with. This is the moon, okay? At some point, the moon becomes playable. So I wanted this extra tile, and I was like, should I have it another dimension? Is it another planet? I was like, you know what? We have other planets available in other expansions. I wanted something unique to my game that I could add, and we could see if people really like it. And what it is the moon, at a certain point in the campaign, you get the ability to open a rift to the moon. Once you have that rift, the cultists can go to the moon and they can build a gate on the moon. So it's just one more space that can have a gate. And in the campaign, there could be different reasons why you want it. of course, in the game, just normal gameplay, it's just another place that you might want to put a gate on. But the thing is, the moon is moving. So the first player gets to control where the adjacent land is to the moon. So there's a token that I'm going to do this print and play, but also if you want me to print you a cardstock version, I'm working that out. So yeah, we'll see. But there's a token that each round during the power generation phase, the first player can move, or has to move that token one space over. And so they can go in any direction as long as it follows the path of the moon, one space. And so at that point, the moon will be adjacent to a different place the whole time. And you can use that in a lot of different ways. You can, if you have a portal on the moon, you can move your armies to the moon and just wait for it to become adjacent to another place that you want to invade. Or alternatively, you may need the moon, but then it's moving, so you have to really be cautious about whether you can even hold it. Maybe you don't want it there. Maybe you don't want a gate there because you know that someone will just take it from you. Or maybe you wait for somebody else to build the gate, then you take it. I don't know. I think the moon is very interesting as an optional rule. And I'm looking forward to seeing how people interact with the moon. Also, the fact that everyone's going to be playing a character, right? They're going to be playing a high priest. Very specifically, not a high priest, the high priest. You're effectively playing the cult leader that is, pulling on strings, trying to get the attention of these beings and get them to help smash their enemies and reshape reality in their personal way. I'm going to be effectively making some decisions on how or what the cult leaders are trying to accomplish, right? You can imagine the cult leader in Doctor Strange, he had lost his family. So in that movie, the Marvel movie, the character wanted to get rid of time, because if time was gone, then he could always be with his, wife and kids. Similarly, the high priests who have chosen for whatever reason to, recruit cultists to help implement their plan, they're going to have reasons, and you're going to just find out their stories as we go. And I think that's going to be really cool too. Yeah, I mean, that's it. I'm not going to go into too much deeper in this video, but in other videos, I'm going to kind of talk about more design processes, things like, in normal legacy games, you have lots of stickers and you have things that you destroy. I'm definitely going to have things you destroy because that's part of the format. You have to rip up cards, and it's great seeing someone cringe when they rip up that card. I just enjoy it. It just feels, it feels something. And so that I'm going to have that, but I won't have stickers because depending on who shows up, it changes the board and things. So instead, mostly what I might have some stickers, but mostly what I'm leaning towards is, each game you'll earn, different cards that you'll put in an envelope because those are your cult leader's cards. And instead of, stickers on the board necessarily, you would just put out these cards and it would have rules, do these things to change the world a little bit more the way you want. And that, I think that actually works for this game better than say stickers, because in this game, you flip the boards depending on who shows up. And typically in legacy games, it's okay if somebody doesn't show up, but they're going to be a little bit behind in the story. That's okay. In Cthulhu Wars, the board shifts so much between whether you're going from 3 players to 8 players. So we're just not gonna, we're not gonna do that. All right, with that, I'd love to hear your feedback. I'd like to, I'm really hoping to have it finished by the end of March. So it's near the end of February. I think by the end of March, I will have something and then have like a print and play kind of option. And otherwise, yeah, we're in the second month of the new year, 2019. And I really appreciate all of the comments and everything that you guys have been leaving. So with that, bye guys. Yo, what's up? Soul tentacles.